everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the JourneyToCSuite podcast. And today's episode is really special because it is the Women's Month, March. Happy International Women's Month to every woman in Nigeria, in Africa, and globally. My name is Titilope, and I am your host on the JourneyToCSuite podcast. If you haven't subscribed, do that right now. And like I always say, don't be stingy. Share with your friends. Comment. I want to hear your thoughts on this episode. I want to see the reactions. Okay, so today's episode is really special because we're in a very special month. And I have a very interesting guest with me here. Someone who doesn't just, preach about those things that we talk about on Twitter. Be someone that is walking the talk. And today I have with me Kiva. Sit back, enjoy the episode. We'll be right back. Hi, Kiva.
Hello.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you for having me, Titi.
I've been dreaming of this since we met.
Oh, guys, I'm blushing.
Backstory, we met on a panel. And she was speaking so passionately about, women's health. Somebody had made a comment around, policies in the workplace affect women, and she was going all the way. I'm like, I'm going to do podcasts with this woman. So yeah, I haven't been doing about it from day one.
Here I am. If you think you can achieve it.
I know, right? So, beyond everything that we can read about you on LinkedIn, how would you describe yourself?
How would I describe myself? I would describe myself as, I don't know, let me try. I'm ambitious. I'm driven, and those words kind of mean the same thing. But I'm also very personable. If you meet me outside, you might not know because I can be reserved. But when I'm in my
element,
with my people, I let loose. I'm very personable. I'm very funny. I like food. I don't mean like I like food as a gluten. I see food as an experience. And see, you're asking me to introduce myself. I always have to talk about food because I say I'm not an art girl. I don't do like the art, but I consider music and food as art because there are things that I can savor and really experience, like every inch and every drop of. I'm self-aware. And that kind of ties into why I'm vocal about things that concern women. Because I think I was raised in a way where I have a strong sense of identity. And I've grown to realize that that's not the case for lots of us women.
Sure.
So I don't know if this does justice to your question. Professionally, I trained as a medical doctor, but I identify as an entrepreneur. I identify as an entrepreneur and the marketer.
Not true.
Yeah.
True.
So that's me professionally. I'm married. I was about to say I'm married to one husband. But yes, I'm married. I've been married for close to a decade now. I think we'll be 8 years in a few months, yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes, I'm married and based in Lagos currently. So if I come and I go. Now right now I'm in Lagos. Company.
They know how to narrow their search, so come and find your company. And then
but I work remotely, so I'm in the air. Okay, I'm a global citizen.
Break.
Yeah, so that's me.
It's nice to meet you. We have a lot in common.
We do.
I love music.
Oh, we're both firstborns, aren't we?
Yeah, nice. I like food.
Oh,
yes.
It's not showing on your body.
Trust me, I do. I tell my friends, it shows in my brain.
It shows in your brain. I'm going to borrow that one after I've lost weight. I'm like, I like food. It's not showing in my body.
It shows in my brain.
It shows in my brain.
So they're always very speechless.
I love it.
Thank you. Anyways, thank you so much. That gave very good background. Kiva is the founder and CEO of Fertitude.
Can you imagine? I was asked to introduce myself and I didn't even talk about. Let me introduce myself. I am CEO, co-founder of Fertitude. Fertitude is a digital health startup. We give women 24/7 stigma-free access to reproductive health support. What that means in a nutshell is if you're a woman and you have any question about your health, something that's troubling you, something you're not sure about, pick up your phone, download Fertitude app, and you'll get the answers you need. right in that moment. And you also get to monitor your health on the go. You can track your periods and, you know, all the good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So now this leads to my next question, because this was where my interest in you and what you do, where it started, because we had a similar question on the panel, and then you got into it. You know, to be very honest, tiny progress has happened, no matter how tiny. Today is no longer news for a man to be super supportive of certain things. It's no longer news for some men to be... A lot of men still struggle. A lot of men is still unthinkable for them. But we have a number of...
Say unthinkable.
I have met people and I just don't know, this is not my thing. This is not my thing. You know, but then a number of men right now don't have issues saying, you know what, I'll compromise, I'll handle the kids, you go. They might not be the large percentage, but we're starting to have such men. Some men are starting to become more aware. Some men that are not aware before, tiny, even if their nature still remains, to an extent,
they're trying.
They're now like, it's no longer becoming so weird. And some families too are starting to adjust. So when you come into your daughter-in-law's home or your son's home, you're no longer shocked, right? At some things, but you might struggle with it within you. But then now parents are learning to kind of like butt out of their kids' home. So we've been making some progress. It's not enough, but it's still progress. I celebrate the small wins, and that's good in my books. But then it definitely needs to get better for the sake of my own children, you know, your own children, you know,
for the sake of the world.
Yes. Now we talk about all that, but then we don't talk about the irony that the same women now we're coming to women. The same women that have gone through all of these things that you talked about, or maybe they haven't, but you're a woman, right? And even if you don't understand, I love the way men back up. You see a man that doesn't know somebody, you don't know me, but the way you would defend me is, I wish we had that more, because now you see a lot of women that have gone through so much to get into certain positions that their peers have not been able to get into. And now, instead of them being the ones to champion certain, you know, policies, certain rules, certain things, they're the ones even shutting the door. And then the fun part, and in this room, sometimes it's even the men saying, let's do this for women.
So we're the opposition.
Well, the society,
weapon fashion against ourselves.
Everything, all that is there. There is this part as well, and we don't shine light on it enough. While I don't want to be judgmental, and I do get that it's for different reasons. Again, you mentioned a part of it where we all live in different worlds, right? Okay. We all live in different worlds. I learned new things last year when I had work colleagues that had to struggle with health, you know, pregnancy, and then I had to say, okay, fine, let's do it like this. Let's to make life easier for you to do this. And then I'm lucky enough to work at a company where, you know, they'll allow you, even after giving birth, they have 3 months mat leave. You get to have like an additional 3 months remote because it's more hybrid. Because you get to bond with your kid, you know, do all that, right?
Shout out to your board, your bosses.
So we have
I love
that.
them.
So now I might be living in a different world, or maybe that outside of my company, I have a personality. I have I might be living in a completely different world from. Maybe that adds to it. However, it happens. And I'm curious to know, beyond we live in different worlds, why people do it. There are people that went through that same struggle. It's weird. I try to understand it. Maybe it's conditioning, but you went through that battle. How did you forget so soon? Why does it happen that way?
This is asking me why, as if I'm the one, as if I'm the opposition.
You know, this is your field, right? Maybe, you know,
maybe I have some
advocacy, you found out some things. Because it's funny to me. You're even the first in the meetings to raise this. You're the first one to flag it down. On the panel, somebody had mentioned how he had suggested women taking break for this, and then the people that were in his comments fighting him the most were actually women. And he was like, what? Did you guys read what I wrote? It's for women. Why do we have that? Because it's happening.
So I think there are 2 top reasons that I've seen. First is fear, and I'll explain what I mean by fear. You want to like guard your position. The second is possibly lack of self-awareness. Right. So Or maybe it's just insensitivity, because that's also another third reason. You might be aware that you should be doing something, but you're just not going to do it. You just don't care. But let's talk about fear for a bit, because I think the fear is legit. Okay. Say I'm a woman who is doing well. Like I said, again, we'll come back to this. When we're privileged, we don't know that we have privilege. That's the thing about privilege. You have a blind spot.
True.
So you've not navigated certain issues. Maybe because by default, in your mind, in your world, once I'm married and I'm pregnant, I should have a housemate. And then maybe you have a good job, you have a housemate. So you never went through...
And you have some tools.
Your mother-in-law is there, your mother is there to help. So you never had some struggles, for instance, right? Or you've always had good health, right? You never had to go through certain things. You are just not aware that there are people that have different circumstances. That is life. C'est la vie. So, if you're not aware of that, so now take, for instance, you're doing well. Say you're middle level, you are eyeing one promotion to C level, and there is someone as well who is maybe middle level but not doing as well at work because she has her issues, and you've judged her. Right? You're like, this person is not serious. You don't want that person, naturally, you don't want that person to drag you down.
True.
So you don't want to be ascribed, you don't want there to be a label to say, this is how women behave. Because you're like, don't put me together with people that behave like this. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is a fear there. There's a certain, I want to guard my position. Because you're like, me, I do well at my job. If you give me something, you can trust me. But if at your workplace, they now start to rate the women a certain way, you don't want to be associated with that, and you want to guard your position. So if there's now a conversation at work where the females are saying, oh, they should grant us menstrual leave, you're like, hey, these are some of the things that they will now use it to make it look as if we're weak.
You're not ready for leadership or something.
Exactly. So you don't want to be associated with anything like that. So I call it fear, but I would also say it's a legitimate fear, right? It takes a level of altruism. And when I say altruism now, like you have this inner sense of, I want to be a voice for good, even if it means that it can come to the detriment of myself to an extent. And not everybody's like that. So if someone does not feel like they have that calling, they're like, I'm just all about my own food on my table, my own career. Please, you people should leave me. Emma, don't bring anything that will make them say, is women.
I don't have the capacity.
Now, let me also tell you, I've experienced this from the other side of the table as an employer, right? Where there are times where I want to employ for a role. And I mean, for a small business, for instance, you don't have that much money in the bank.
Yeah.
You want to hire one person for something, and you're like, I'll probably rather hire somebody who does not have XYZ strings attached. Or if I see that somebody has XYZ attribute, you are coming today to say, sorry, you have to go to the hospital tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, what will happen to my business now? I don't have the luxury of saying that, okay, because I'm a supportive boss, okay, go on. So it's a dicey thing, you know. And that on that panel, one of the things that we had said is, on the side of the women who have tenuous circumstances where, you know, maybe there's a health issue, there's a family issue, we have a burden to be better.
Sure.
We have a burden to show up fully when we can.
That you can actually do it. Nobody works with you with potential. They look at you like, we should have delivered this, right? So
we have that burden. If you know that there is a time of the month that comes where you may be useless, it's typically 3 days. Unfortunately, there are some people that have that for longer. But let me just take the very common circumstances. If a woman has a 5-day period, for instance, there are some women who, all those 5 days, they are in deep pain and they have to still try to come to work. What do? The days where you can show up fully, make yourself the best employee ever, so that
those days that you cannot,
your manager, and it also means that you have to have good communication with your manager. I always tell this to people on my team. I tell them that when all else fails, communication will speak for you. If you are accountable, you know how to communicate properly. Even on the days where you can't meet up, it won't count against you, because somebody knows, they're like, Titi is not like this, okay? Or Titi already told me that. like there will be an understanding, like a nod of the head between you and your manager, regardless of whether it's a guy or a woman. This thing is, it's not gender specific, if you ask me. Now I know, and this, I'm not saying this to be insensitive, I'm saying that if you have specific circumstances that can work against you, plan, be smart.
Like depositing in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So that the day
you have to withdraw, there's something left.
Enough.
So now that's on the part of the women who have these issues, right? But I'm also trying to say that I can understand why certain women would not want these labels. Because when someone is trying to employ, there's now the discrimination that happens where someone is like, if you hire a woman, or if you hire somebody with kids, they will say they cannot travel. They will say they cannot do this, they cannot do that. You know what? We cannot change the world at once. So let's just also be honest. There are some roles that may not work for you if you come with certain... If you're a mother with kids, you know that a job that requires a lot of travel may not be ideal for you.
And that's part of the cost that you need to count.
Yes.
When you're starting that life.
So you said, when you want to choose your career and you want to choose where you're working, you kind of know how you're charting the types of jobs you're going after. So I think it takes wisdom on the part of all the parties involved. But there would also be a lot of empathy required from the people who are making decision makers, the business owners, the management board, because the thing about policy is my Yorubas will say that something that cannot talk should not be smarter than us, right?
Yes.
So there is another person I know will say that any problem that you see is a wisdom problem. I think that there is no situation that is smarter than us putting our heads together to say, how can we find a way forward where it's win-win and everybody moves forward? Yes, there will now still be people that will do rubbish, okay?
And that's normal.
I mean, and I'm not going to blame it on, it's not a woman thing or it's not a girl thing. Humans generally, it's human behavior. Nobody's perfect. So when we now put these policies in place, there will be some females at work who will still do somehow, and to now be a bad rap. What shall we do? We'll only try our best.
Interesting. So advocacy campaigns, when it comes to women, you know, all of these things, a lot of times, right, they start well, but then they soon get lost in personal biases, personal Twitter battles, emotional debates. Because all of this is emotional debates. Emotional debates, right? Maybe I'm saying something from my own perspective, you can't relate, or you think I'm saying this, and that's what I'm saying, and everybody just start going crazy, you know. Emotional debates, we frequently see that happen, you know, a lot of times. What's the secret to creating a campaign that resonates truly and drives action and stays clean? Because we need it, right? Nobody can solve a problem for you. We are the ones that will go solve our own problems. Getting involved in things.
What I'll say is, I think that everybody has a part to play. You see, the human body, we have the head, we have the hand, we have the toes and the different parts. So not the people who are emotional and abrasive about their debates, they have a part to play.
Okay, I've never seen it that way.
And there's a flock of people who are a lot more pragmatic, level-headed. They can, you know, similar to sales, they can bring you over to the other side, convince you to change your mind. Those people too have a role to play. I think the first thing is for us to realize that when my friends and I, we do like a little gossip about something we saw on Twitter, and maybe a friend of mine is like, I don't like this person, their mouth is too sharp, they're always doing cho on Twitter. I'm like, I'm not like that though, but I respect them for who they are. I don't know how to be like that. But these people may be the ones that even start the dialogue, because they cause katakata, they break tables. And it's that ruckus that they cause that now causes people to now look and be like, what's happening? Then we, the peacemakers, will now come and be like, calm down.
This is how it is.
But see, if everybody in the world was level-headed, we would not...
things will not shift. They're very correct.
You know, so one thing I will just say is, at the end of the day, let's not make excuse for bad behavior. Okay. There's a book I read that changed my life. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. One major lesson of that book is, when you want to bring someone over to your side, you've already lost that argument or that debate if you've put them on the defensive.
Sure.
So we all know that our men currently feel attacked.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, we need them to cause this change because they still hold the power. There are more men at the seats of decision making than there are women. So if we put them on the defensive, nothing is going to change. We need more people who are able to dialogue, have level-headed dialogue, and get people to see our perspective. And that may not happen when we start throwing stones. So there are two sides to this. I think that the keyboard warriors
is needed.
They are needed, right? But that's not always what will cause the change. We also need even our keyboard warriors to also know that there's a time to switch and to have dialogue where you're persuading people to see your perspective so that we can move the needle in the way that it needs to be moved.
This is really interesting, and I like how you've been able to, show the value that each approach brings to the table. Sometimes one approach would steer things up and get things really heated. The other one would then, okay, things are heated up right now, right? But then let's bring some logic to it. This is correct. Maybe the approach is wrong, but then this is why and why and why. Yeah, and sometimes the heated side often bring more awareness that now causes you to look for more information.
Absolutely.
Right? Because there's a lot of things that I didn't know that women have issues with in this country until we had people that were shouting about it.
Our angry feminists. I love all our, like, what was this thing someone says, I support women's rights and wrongs.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm like, yeah, you look at me. I don't have that anger in me, but it's okay. I have some anger, actually. I have some anger.
Things around passports, problems with women, a lot of issues, and this is 2025.
Like, am I a goat? Am I a stone for everything?
I should not be having this issue.
I'm not somebody's property. I'm a human.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
I'm like, really? That's happening. Why are we not talking about it? But guess what? Why the angry people did not bring it up? Some angry people did. But then I remember the particular situation where I left one of these things. It was a man that brought it up, and then it said it to spite the angry voices. And it was like, women are always shouting every day about, cooking, who's not cooking. But then these are issues that they're not fighting about. Number one, if I marry a foreigner, if you marry a foreigner as a woman, that man doesn't automatically become a citizen of Nigeria. So he has to go through visa problems. He has to go through coming in and out.
But it's not the same the other way around. If a man marries a foreign woman.
No, I don't think the same way.
I mean, I've seen a lot of
I don't think the same way, but then I didn't realize that particular issue
was existed.
But guess what? Why the man had said it out of spite for the angry people? But the truth is, if he wasn't angry at them, he wouldn't have said it, and I wouldn't have known. Right.
So there's some merit to the words, the gender words. Yeah. I
do agree with you. You're doing a lot of amazing work in this space, especially a space where a lot of people don't really talk about yet. The content are coming up, but it's not like money conversations or career conversations or things like that. But then you're one of the people that are helping us move this needle on a daily basis, and this is my own contribution as well. Can you please share your journey as an entrepreneur and how it's inspired your passion about women's health?
Okay. So my journey as an entrepreneur has affected my passion about women's health. I would say that what the major factor has been my own health journey, right? And how that intersects with my career. So, the average Nigerian or African girl thinks I will finish school, I will get married to the love of my life, maybe a few years after, have kids, I want to be done having kids before I'm 30, and now I can enjoy the rest of my life. And that's kind of like the timetable I had in my head. Got married quite young. I think I was about 23 when I got married. Yeah, nice. I was a baby. Now I knew. I didn't know then. And we're still waiting to have kids. A long story that I will come to after. But one thing I realized, so people would come to me, my friends and other people as well, strangers, just complimenting me on, Kiva, you're doing so well, or how are you able to do this, like you're doing so well in your career. And this thing where you have friends where you're giving them ginger because you want to encourage them, let's do this together. And then I started to take notes that I had a couple of friends who weren't able to move at that pace. And maybe initially I thought it was like laziness or maybe lack of drive. And from speaking to them, getting to know them better, I understood that, Kiva, there's a privilege you have that you don't realize is privilege. And it's the fact that I'm child-free in this season of my life. It's a blessing, by the way, so I'm not even saying this as a bad thing. The reason why my partner and I've had to wait, so let me just give the side gist, just for context, is we both found out we're AS 2 weeks to our wedding. I always thought I was AA. I thought I was AA all my life. And we're both doctors, so we kind of knew that, at least for us, don't try this at home, y'all. There are ways to have AA babies if you're both AS. It requires a lot of expensive genetic testing. Like, when I say expensive, think like 0.00000, like in USD.
Wow.
Yeah. So our long.
Don't try it at home, please.
Don't try it at home. Except you want to take the risk of, just gambling. And so we're like, we'll go ahead. So what that meant was having babies for us. There was a lot of finance. We had to think finance for that. Yeah, and we got married young, very early in our career. So we kind of had to wait for finances to settle before you could, embark on that. So that's what that was for us. But then I realized that not having kids yet meant that I could fly. I wasn't trying to figure out my career and at the same time trying to figure out my identity, because what happens with a lot of new moms is you're going through an identity shift. God help you if you're married to the average, traditional, not so forward-thinking partner, then you have to shoulder a lot of that burden, and that can be a lot. And so that, career-wise, that sets a lot of people back. Even business-wise, it sets a lot of people back. And so it was this awareness. I was in a journey with a few of my friends and loved ones where I'm trying to understand you better. I don't want to judge you for not being as driven, like, what are you doing with your life? But then I started to understand that, oh no, Kiva, you're on your own journey of flying in your career, and this person is on their own journey of starting a family, right? But this took me down a reflective path where I realized I also have friends who are mothers and they are doing well in their businesses and their careers. So it's not. But it's not that. But it's not like, oh, if you become a mom now, you can't do well. No. However, it's not common. Not many women know that, they should get help. And so I started to reflect. My mom is ambitious. My mom, maybe in terms of like, our parents want us to do better than them, right? So maybe my mom was not doing as well as I'm doing when she was my age. But I really respect my mom for the business that she's built. But I started to reflect and realized, my mom had help. Right? I grew up with domestic stuff, and I realized that also shaped my mindset around certain things. I started to appreciate my mom better, to realize, my mom had a strong sense of identity. She had a lot of clarity on what she wanted. And we're talking about, you're asking how my entrepreneurship journey has shaped my view on women's health. We're talking about health here because there are certain key milestones in a woman's life that, if not managed properly, will affect how well she's able to function in any other area of her life.
I agree with you.
Motherhood is one, right? But when you think about motherhood, there's motherhood within wedlock.
True.
There's also motherhood outside of wedlock, because there are lots of single moms.
Situations. Right?
There are a lot of single moms. Maybe single moms who are old, but there are also a lot of people who had teenage pregnancies, right? And, when you think outside of pregnancy and pregnancy planning and all of that, there's also, the occasional health issues that come with like a woman's cycle, maybe where there's one abnormality or the other, and it affects a woman's ability to perform well on the job, right? So besides family planning, pregnancy spacing, there's also health issues that can affect productivity on the job. There's also things that when you have a baby, are you getting like enough support from your workplace for when you want to come back into the workforce?
True.
So these are just some of the things that I started becoming more aware of, because I was on a journey of my own, but I was also trying to understand the women in my life.
This is a very interesting topic, because I could relate. While I am one of those girls that uni days for me was coming out of uni, build my life, build a business, build this, travel, do that, then I can think of a baby, right? So that was my category. However, I had a lot of friends that were on the other side. We're holding fantastically well. But then it's been how many years down the line, from that time in uni till now? I think everybody's journey all through those times, I could relate to everything that you're saying. In fact, a friend of mine and I were having a conversation a few months ago, and we had to look at how things were going with her. A very amazing, driven person, but there are so many constraints. Kids, having to sacrifice one for one, it's okay to argue and say, oh, it's the glory of one thing, but the truth is there's some women that want both.
Yeah, can I say, one thing that we try to dance around or we don't say in the open is also that this thing also affects finances. And
yes.
Money makes the world go round.
Yes, it does.
Because when you're planning your life, you need to think about whether there's money to finance all these things you're thinking of and dreaming of. When you start to have additional people, or you have a health issue that you're taking care of and it's taking money out of your pocket, it affects how you're able to dream and how you're able to project. So that's we don't talk about it often. And you also find that it's why am I having to find this out on my own? Why is
nobody's telling me?
Yeah, why isn't this something that is in our curriculum in secondary school or whatever? Or why isn't it something that my mom
even told me?
Yeah, why am I having to figure it out in a conversation with my friend? And we're why is everybody's saying, why is nobody talking about it? So thank God we're talking about it now, right?
Yeah. Thank God, yeah. So it's really important to understand, because this is for women that are very ambitious. They want to have families, and at the same time, they don't want that to get in the way of what they want out of life. So it's okay if there's you belong to the other side where you don't mind giving one for one. That's perfect as well. But then this is specifically for people who want both. Yeah. I'm in that category of people. And that's why conversations like this, they're super, super important. Because there are certain things that I would learn from your journey. I would learn from your friend's journey. Absolutely. I would learn from journeys of women that have gone ahead of me in this thing. And that would allow me replan things. Okay, so when I get to this point, how do I plan to handle it? Because it's going to be a constraint. A friend of mine was beating herself down the other day, and I had to tell her, calm down. I'm doing 2, 3, 4, 5 things. I don't have any child, right? I wake up in the morning and it's myself.
So our race is different.
So you are fantastic. You are amazing. But when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you think of is how your kids will get to school. I'm not thinking of that, right? I'm looking at my bed, I'm opening my laptop.
Raising kids is a full-time job in itself. So kudos to all our mamas.
So I had to remind her that you're not a lazy person. You're the same person that built all these things before these things came up. But then you really didn't prepare, or you didn't really have the full picture of what this was going to require of you. And that's one thing that needs to stop. Right? So going forward, women that want this should have a very good idea, so they will be able to make informed decisions on how they should. This is very nice.
I know a lot of our listeners are probably from this part, Nigerians, Africans, who are very religious people, or sentimental. It's this conversation we're having is very scriptural, because why should a man build a house and not count the cost?
Because, thank you. I like that.
Before you go into anything, you should actually think about it. So, a lot of our women, we are getting married. So if you're ambitious, then part of your ambition means that you should tell yourself, this is when we are ready to have kids. This is when we are able to have kids. And if you know that you want to put your career on hold for that, then you can plan for it. Well, I think one thing that a lot of our women struggle with is it can be hard to find yourself after having kids if you did not find yourself before having kids.
Choose an extra journey.
It's just hard. You can now get comfortable in that place. So let me explain what I mean. Say you had a career. I mean, look at you now. You an executive, and all of that. If you take a pause to have kids, you kind of had a sense of what you like to do.
Right back into it.
Yeah. So when you come back, you may struggle a bit with the transition of trying to get back in. Good for you if your workplace is very supportive of women and they help you transition back easily. It's easy. But imagine if right out of school, you had twins. You've never even gotten a job before. You just worked as a clerk somewhere in a shop. You've not come to know yourself. Like I said, I got married at 23. What did I know at that age? Right? So imagine, and that was my plan really. Come out of school and have the babies. And so it means that before I even know myself, I've lost myself. And not losing myself in a bad way. You can ask any mom. We're grateful. And this is also another thing, as Africans, as Nigerians, we think it's bad for us to talk about the cons. Talking about pros and cons.
Things can exist.
Exactly. In school, every time we did stuff, they will tell you advantage and disadvantage. Right? Yeah. So we're not saying that it's a bad thing. You need to also weigh like both sides. So if you are starting this journey without first knowing yourself, the downside to it is when you will get to a point in your life where you're like, wait, what am I doing?
Yes.
And you don't even know where to start because you had not even started.
This is so interesting.
Yeah.
I like that because it's bringing back a lot of like memories with my parents, bringing a lot of things to my head. While I might not be directly going through it, I do have a good number of people around me that are dealing with this. Right, having to now find themselves what they want to do. And also another luxury a lot of people don't count as luxury is having an enabling environment. So being partnered with somebody.
Support system is everything. Your partner, sometimes
your parents as well.
And that's the thing that Jackpot is causing now, because when you Jackpot, your family may not be around you to support you. If you live here and let's say you have kids, grandma is here to help, mother-in-law is there to help, cousin, sister. But when you're alone, what's to a man who is alone when he falls? Because who will help him up?
True.
Type of thing, yeah. So support system is very important, especially the partner. Okay, and those are some of the decisions. So we're talking about health, but you realize that it ties to everything. Your choice of a life partner, your finance, because finance is what determines whether you can hire house help and hire cook.
True. Yeah. Actually, that's why there's always fight on Twitter. Because one person that can afford to hire like 25 cooks is sharing an opinion that somebody that can't.
Our journeys are not the same. It's a different way.
Yeah, true. This is very true. And I've gone on to start Fertitude based on all of these things. How is Fertitude currently helping to? This is not a promotion, trust me.
Thank you, though.
Trust me, it's just something that I really love that you're doing. And this is Women's Month. This is something that it's important that there is finally like support systems, a lot of advocacy around this. Even in the workplace, there's a lot of helpful tools now coming up. Things like, so yeah, Fertitude is one of those tools. But definitely talk about this. So how is that currently helping women at this time?
I would say first of all is the awareness. As you can see, everything we've spoken about here is not rocket science. It's just the fact that we don't know. So the heart behind Fertitude really is we want to make a lot more of these conversations mainstream. And there's a strategy to how we're doing it, right? So let me take a step back, because what Fertitude really is, so I don't confuse anybody, it's a mobile app, right? A woman can download it. She uses to track her period. So that's a monthly thing that we all have. She can talk to a doctor on the app. She can join an anonymous community on the app, which is where conversations are being had. Conversations that you should be aware of that you may not have been aware of.
That's actually the product.
Yeah.
That is the main product. That's the part that interests me.
So it's all interwoven, because if there's a tool that you have to use, for instance, a comb, use a comb to brush your hair, right? So what we're trying to do here is, if there's a tool that a woman uses every month to track her period, that tool can also it can be a double-edged weapon, because that same tool can give you a lot of the education that you need. So you understand things, you understand your body. I mean, there's also, for instance, our menstrual cycle. I'm not sure if you know, and many women we've spoken to do not know, we have 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, and it affects our energy levels. And when you know your energy levels, you know how to plan yourself, because you know, I'm more productive at this time of the month. Let me do a lot of things in these times of the month where I'm more productive, so that when my energy level drops, I'm able to, it's not
balanced out.
Yeah, it balances out. So it's just it's just all of these things, right? So that's how Fertitude helps. The awareness, first of all, but we're also giving women the tools. Creating awareness, giving education, giving women the tools. Because another thing that happens is sometimes a woman needs information, but she's speaking to the wrong people.
This is very common because even globally, it took, even in the Western world, women so many years to get to this point where they can access information that they need, where even the men around them, the family they have, are able to understand and then help in the right way. We are just trying to get there. So yeah,
Absolutely.
It's really important.
It's a lot, and I don't want to like go down unnecessary rabbit holes on this call, because I want to ensure that people, our listeners, are able to like get what they need. But there is so much. Awareness sounds like a cliche, but see, you don't know what you don't know
until you find out.
And then when you know, you're like, why did anybody not tell me this sooner? Ask most of our women, they will tell you. Even our mothers will tell you. And I don't know why our mothers will say, you will find out when you get there.
They just, it's not a big deal.
So conditioning. Conditioning. I thank God for social media, because I think there's now this drive of people speaking up. And everybody's saying, oh, it's a Gen Z thing, it's a millennial thing.
No, it's not.
It's actually because there is now this tool that more people can use to
spread the word,
use their voice to do some good. But awareness is such an important part of female empowerment. Us knowing who we are, what we can do, and just maximizing things to full. Our health, without our health, we have nothing.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So
you find out, there's a woman at work always falling sick. Or you don't know she's dealing with some extremely,
Or she's having multiple miscarriages.
And you wouldn't even know because she's not going to tell you.
And guess what? A woman with miscarriages is mourning.
Yeah, she's dealing with grief.
She's grieving. She's having to come to work.
She can't even tell you that she was pregnant because
she cannot tell later.
Trimester. Right, so nobody even knew she was pregnant.
And then women don't want to speak up about these things at work because you're like, someone is going to stigmatize.
And you don't look weak or look like you're a liability. Right, that promotion you're eyeing, you want to give somebody that has less liability. Wow. And that brings me to this. So there are more women at entry level, mid level, compared to
C-level.
C-level. Before anybody eats me up, let's be real here. If you do your findings, do a research, even look at any enterprise organization. A friend of mine and I were talking about it. There's a guy that works at oil and gas. And having a conversation, and he was saying something around, they've been doing a lot of drive for women to come in. But then when it gets to mid-level, they just, and when it goes to the C-level, it feels like nothing had happened. Like they have not made any changes. There's not. From your perspective, as somebody who's a professional in this part, what's your point of view on this? Why does this happen?
Before, whenever these types of conversations happen, I see people twist the narrative and make it sound like we're asking women to be something they're not. So the exact question you've asked me, I kind of want everyone listening to know that this is not just a conversation about a career woman getting to C-level. Let's look at music artists as well. If we had to call the artists who we know and who are doing very well, we will have a long list of male artists.
True.
And a smaller list of female artists. So you realize that it's not just about like the office work. It's really just about life and someone picking up something to do it and being able to do it well for the long haul. But typically as women, we now have these hurdles that come and stop us from being able to do the things that we love or desire to do.
This reminds me of when I was having with someone where I told them, you and I don't have the same career calendar. I have to be smarter with my calendar and ensure that I get to a point before certain things come back. So that when I pull myself back in the game, I've not lost so much. Unlike when I've not really done anything tangible, then I take that, I bring on those in the extras. It's going to be harder. It's not like it does. People don't. There are lots of high-flying women with children and family and doing everything. Okay, but let's not be tone deaf.
They have help.
Let's not be tone deaf. It's not, the percentage is not.
It's not high, yeah. And I think I had to use that scenario because, again, we are not fighting our men. Okay, I love my husband.
No.
I love my husband very much.
It's not a gender word. Don't worry.
This is not exactly. This is not a gender word. This is, we want our women to be aware, like you said. And to be honest, you just answered your question with what you said. You have a different calendar. Your race is different from the masculine race.
It's not the same thing.
So you have to put that into consideration. Count the cost. Count the cost.
Again.
Count the factors and plan it into your journey. If it's a case of, oh, okay, I still want to do this at this time, then you have to know that maybe you need the finances, because the finance will ensure that you have people to help you.
Yes.
You can delegate a lot more when you have the money.
Have options.
Yeah. So why are we not seeing more women at C-level? We've already, literally everything we've said, we've discussed the answer. Women's journey is not a straight line. And so, particularly, the career space is male-dominated, typically, in most places. If you want to go toe-to-toe with the men, you have to realize that they do not have the constraints
that you have,
that we have.
And in a lot of cases.
In many cases, the woman would end up, the burden of who needs to see, if there is a 2-parent household, mom, dad, and there's something concerning the kids,
the mom takes the breakfast.
The burden ends up falling to the mom. I know our men will be like, oh yeah, but we bring the money. Thank you very much. We're grateful. But when it comes to like the hard work and the grunt work, if the man says, oh, I have to travel for this trip for 3 months, it's easier for the man to up and do that. He doesn't necessarily think, oh, I can't travel because of the kids.
I have to explain myself.
But the mom will think, no, I can't take that trip because of the kids. So whether you like it or not, our journey is different. So you have to put that into, if you now live in a world where you know that those factors, you can't do anything about it, then plan with it in mind. It's actually that simple. So you find that a lot of the C-level women who are doing well, they will tell you, if you move close to them, they will tell you that you need to know how to plan your life.
Yeah.
They will actually tell you.
To an extent.
You need to know how to plan your life. You also need to learn how to deal with like feeling guilty about certain things.
And you need
just
to
balance
a lot. The PepsiCo, she talks about it this a lot.
Absolutely. And I don't want to call names of, like, I've been at sessions with, some of these women we see who are doing very well in their career. We called like mentors. We know them all across Nigeria, all across Africa. Some of these sessions, they will tell you, you have to be smart. You have to plan. You also have to know when to take the L, because sometimes you may not be able to do some things that you want to do.
Yeah.
At that point in time, and it's okay. So you should have seen it coming.
But your compromise should be calculated.
Basically, we're saying the same thing. You have to plan.
Interesting. So I'm coming to health, because the health part, I didn't really get exposed to that until recently. I haven't had to deal with any health issue that affects my work. Most times, maybe the biggest health issue I've ever.
You're God's favorite. I'm God's favorite too, actually. I'm the same.
Maybe malaria or something.
Yeah.
And by God's grace, it stays that way. But then I've become more exposed to other people's worlds, and I've come to see that a lot of people as driven, as talented, as fire pack and everything, but then they are dealing with major issues that is not allowing them. And then these are like women-related, health issues. A number of them that I've, come to see. Right? Some people have extremely difficult pregnancies. Some people are very lucky that you even know they are pregnant when it's like 8 months.
7 months, 8 months.
There was a team member I had then that I didn't know she was pregnant until she took a bath. They were like, what? So not that lucky. Not everybody is very lucky, right? And so this definitely affects their career journey, because all maybe your manager is seeing, if you're not even very close, is I don't know what that problem is. She's always sick, or I don't know what this is. I don't know. I don't think I can rely on this. I think I can rely on this person, for this. I think I just want a more reliable person. And the problem is just because there's something going on that cannot really be, that should actually be, if we be able to share, but we've not gotten to the point in this part where you can actually share it. Even the part where you can share it, to be very honest, it's still a problem when you share it. It still affects you in some ways. What's the solution to this fix? I understand that the solution might not be tomorrow kind of fix.
I was about to say the same thing.
But then what's the solution? And what are the parties that would need to get involved?
So I'll answer the question about the parties, but I do need to say, at the end of the day, this conversation, I wish that things we're talking about were things that could be implemented instantly.
True.
This is a long-standing problem. It's a complex problem. It's an institutional problem.
True.
Cultural problem, like systemic. It runs as far back as 2,000 years, 3,000 years ago, way before our time, just in terms of how the world has seen men and how the world has seen women. So the number one problem is there's not enough research around women's health concerns.
Yes.
And if that sounds like big grammar for our listeners, the simple way for me to explain this is, if you have a headache right now, you know that you should take paracetamol.
Yeah.
And probably lay down for an hour or just drink some water, you'll be okay. Do you know how many women's health issues we don't know? I'm a trained medical doctor. What they tell us is it's idiopathic. The cause is unknown.
A woman said she had dealt with something for so many years.
Cause is unknown.
And her gynae kept feeling like she was exaggerating it. And then it was like, whenever they tell you you're exaggerating your pain, go to another doctor. Don't ever believe anybody you're exaggerating your pain. She said it took her years to actually find out that she had a serious issue. And she was always feeling that pain every time. And then they don't know what it is. Just tell her, it's just going to pass.
Cause is unknown. So what's the solution? So, we can have this conversation now. But at the end of the day, for this thing to change, we're starting the change, right? Because every time we use our voice, we're moving the needle.
Yeah, small.
Right? And I think that 20 years from now, things will look a lot more different from what it's not changed that will take a year.
Actually, and that's depressing and maybe, hopeful at the same time.
Fun fact is that women were not included in clinical trials until 1993. And
that's about 30 years ago.
Yeah. 30 years ago is recent. I'm roughly 30, right? Because
that's not recent.
Because what that means is that there's medicine that our mothers and our grandmothers
didn't have access to,
or they took, but it wasn't tested on women. So nobody had any data on whether women should not be taking some things.
Or they should be taking this.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to look at all my drugs differently.
I mean, I don't want to digress into doom theories and all of that. But I was using the example of headache. So what I'm trying to say here is there are simple things, simple natural things that we should not be saying we don't know the cause. When a woman gets pregnant, guess what? Pregnancy is how you were born, is how our president was born, is how every man and woman was born. And I mentioned a man, our president is a man, because this issue does not just concern women.
Yeah,
I would expect our men to also understand that this concerns them too. The mom who brought a man into being went through a lot of suffering and pain, but we've accepted that it's normal. There are religious nuances to this that I don't want to go into. I grew up, just hearing that, we've been cursed for the pain of childbirth. And, there are some people that say, oh, Hebrew women birth without. By the way, I don't want to deconstruct the concept of Hebrew women because, oh my gosh, there's the concept of Hebrew, I have to talk about this because we're addressing issues, right? Mm-hmm. So the concept of Hebrew women in the biblical scriptures for our Muslim sisters and brothers is I think Moses had to, I'm not sure it was Moses, don't let me commit heresy, right? But someone had to lie to Pharaoh to say that the women were giving birth quickly. Right? It was a cover-up. Okay. Actually, medically, if your labor happens in less than 1 hour, it's a bad thing. It's called precipitated labor.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm saying that because the standard, and I'm addressing someone who is listening to this now and saying, when I'm saying, oh, generally childbirth is painful, the person is saying, oh, in Jesus' name, my own childbirth is not painful. Okay, amen for you. That's not the point. The point is, we've not even said, why is childbirth painful? How can we stop it from being painful? Do you understand? And that's where I was going when I was saying every man is born of a woman. Something that simple, something that common.
We're going to childbirth. Why do I have menstrual pain every month? I get why I have it, but is there a reason why?
But a man can argue and say, oh, I don't have menstrual pain, but you were born of a woman, so you should be considered to be like, why does my mom or why does my wife have to go through so much pain? Do you understand? Now thank God for technology. We now have epidural where they can inject anesthesia in your spine, but that also comes with like its own range of complications and all of that. And the women will tell you the bad experiences they've had with that. It's like, hey Joe, allow me to speak vernacular, like help. These things we should be carrying it on our head because every woman goes through it.
But you know what I realized? In life, it sounds cold, but nobody's going to save you except for yourself.
So let me now tell you where the vicious cycle starts from. We that we have the problem. We are the ones that should ginger ourselves, go and do research, go and do that. But guess what? We cannot even do our career and research finish because we have babies now, so we cannot complete the work. So who help us? At the end of the day,
you get castigated for choosing career over something, and
it's a vicious cycle. At the end of the day, right? It's going to take men and women coming together, but we would need to be able to help our men see the light, so they can have a lot of empathy for this situation. And it's happening already.
Yes,
we're starting to see a lot more research and findings around things. I was reading a research earlier about likely cause of endometriosis. Endometriosis is this thing where a woman has, every time she has a period, it's painful. I've met women.
That's PCOS.
No, that's not PCOS. That's different. I've met women, we've spoken to women at Fertitude who faint.
Yes,
when their periods come, and then their doctors tell them, their male doctors, even their female doctors, because women too, they do ourselves sometimes. We tell them, why are you being so dramatic?
We're getting to that.
You see, we started this entire episode with talking about the fact that I realized that my story was not the complete story.
Yeah, there were many sides to it.
There were many sides. Different women have different experiences, and I realized I was judging other women harshly.
With your own experience.
So I may be doing well with my pain, but if a woman is fainting every time and she's crying every time, don't now say, what's wrong with you? Are you the only person? Are you the first person? Is that person not a woman too? I realized that I was guilty of that to an extent.
This thing is so real. So I used to have I have crazy cramps. It's better now. Some years ago, I used to almost feel like dying. And guess what? My mom has never had period pains.
Yeah, did your mom ever tell you that kilo share?
Funny enough, I'm lucky enough to be raised by an empathetic person.
Oh, God bless your mom.
And then the first time she witnessed it, because I was up in boarding school, first time she witnessed it, I was home. She didn't know what to say. Because she was like, the last time she saw this was when she was in secondary school. She used to have a colleague that used to roll like a ball. And now she has a daughter that has that. She was always like, okay, what can I use? So I was not telling her, no, this doesn't work for me. This is what works for me. Because in boarding school, I had girls now that had similar issues. So we had Pelvin, we always had, sometimes we stand on top of each other. If there was a girl and
we are wearing our pain with pride.
She would stand on the back of the other person. But then, she had a different experience from me. If she had been somebody that had no empathy, she could, because I was a teenager, she could have told me I was being dramatic. She could have dismissed me. And before I know what's happening, I'd become that unknowingly. But she wouldn't even know that she's doing it.
Absolutely.
Right? And yeah, that's something that's really we are dealing with as well. So we've said a lot of things today that I do hope that a lot of people pick from, and not just listen to and pick from, actually use. Okay? But then we also talk about privilege. And people that don't have privileges. Now let's focus on women that are in underserved communities. Sometimes when I have to do things in certain communities that is not my usual, maybe routes, areas, then I realize that I live in a different world. Because I'm offended at comments, I'm offended at things, I'm offended at the norms that you're expecting me to do that I'm not interested in doing. Let me walk into your midst and do something typical because I'm you. I don't live in that world. I'm not going to do it. But then it makes me realize that, come, Titi, you're in a different world, and this is a different world. So now, women in underserved communities, women that have little access to technology, because with technology comes information and rights and education and all of those things. But then, women in this environment, right? That is within the things that you do, your day-to-day, because I know it's not a one-day problem, and it's not a one-person problem. But then in what ways does Fertitude try to help
reach people? Yeah. The short answer is So outreaches. So by outreaches, like, you know, sometimes you can go to like a school in a rural community to do stuff. And the other is we are also now thinking about how our tech can reach the last mile user.
Smartphone.
So I mean, I'll come there.
Cool.
And like I said, that's the short answer. The long answer to this is at its very core. Okay, I'm a businesswoman. And so Fertitude's target audience, our primary target audience is women in semi-urban to urban areas. Okay, it's important for me to know who I'm called to.
Sure.
And focus on that. I know lots of people in the health space who are called to the people in the rural areas. So
nice.
I'm not going to take on someone's assignment when I have my own assignment. Because another thing is, I feel like there's this thing going on now where when the foreign people come, because they're like, oh, we want to serve women in underserved communities, right? Africa as a whole, African women are underserved, plus urbano, plus semi-urbano, plus when it comes to these issues, right?
That was nobody's above. Nobody's above. That's the way they say it. Even your paycheck will not save you. Your high-flying woman will not save you.
So, you know, the truth is that if everybody says, oh, we're going to the rural areas, then we're leaving the people who are in the urban areas. In this past year, I had someone close to me who had an unplanned pregnancy, married. Unplanned pregnancies happen even when you're married, okay? If you got married based on debts, and after 1 month, your marriage, when you've not finished paying your wedding bills, you get pregnant because you thought that contraception was by fate. That's an unplanned pregnancy, and it happens.
In 2005?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, this was one of people working for me, you know, got pregnant, unplanned. We were supposed to have the conversation. It was the week where I sat her down. She was saying, ma, I'm already pregnant too. It was not planned. And, you know, she was very unhappy about it. Lots of people, happens to be, we don't talk about these things. Why am I saying this? This person, this happened, this person, right in Ikeja, in Lagos. We used to say that someone that lives in Ikeja is in a rural area. No, but she's underserved as far as the information that she needs to make informed decisions about her health and her body. So our primary target audience is actually women in semi-urban to urban areas. However, we have, you know, from time, and we're going to do a lot more of that this year, where we're reaching out to people who have coverage in the rural areas to support and do the outreaches together. So we're bringing finance, we're bringing our medical personnel, and then we're going to these areas together to give health talks, deliver sensitization. But then our technology, because we're a health tech company, right? How does our technology reach the last mile user? Some of the things we have on our product roadmap is, I think WhatsApp is, WhatsApp is one thing that we know, even though some people do not have access to WhatsApp right now. WhatsApp coverage will increase tremendously over, you know, so we have feature phones, but we now have these smartphones that are a crossover between feature phones and these phones that you can get for like 15,000 naira and stuff. These phones will have WhatsApp, right? So a woman that can use that will be able to reach her. I know of people who are building in the health space who have like USSD coverage. You send a code to like a particular number, and we're not going that far yet. I think WhatsApp is kind of where, so it's the outreaches and having our tech have some kind of WhatsApp integration so that women can at least like send a message to that WhatsApp bot and they're able to like engage with our services. So those are the ways that we are. But I just needed to clarify that underserved is not necessarily about the geography.
True.
Sometimes it's also about what's the knowledge that's available. If you live in Iyanokwaja and you think that because you have electricity, you're not underserved when it comes to health, but you can't make certain, or you don't even know that what's wrong with you, the solution is very simple, blah, blah, blah. You're still underserved as far as the health education that you need.
Now, coming to policies, we spoke about earlier, the truth is, policies don't just make themselves. So there has to be like an intense collaboration between NGOs, government agencies, associations, right? Even in the workspace, okay? In what way do you think these collaborations can happen? I don't have to quit my job to join an NGO to be a part of that. In what ways do you think these collaborations can happen? And I love that you had mentioned earlier that it's not just a thing that women have to do alone. Just like there was a menstrual pad one time that was going really viral, and then a lady made a comment that I won't forget, and she was, I wore this pad and it felt like there was a woman in the room.
When it was designed.
When it was designed. But the company is owned by a man. So the company was owned by a man, right? But then they had experimented with a lot of women. There were a lot of women that were involved in the process, that research period. It's not the first product that you produce that you're going to sell out to people. Yeah, so the other experimentation phase, there were women there. And then the lady said, I'm a plus size lady, and I feel like somebody had me in mind when this was made. You get a woman that really owned the company. Collaboration. Right? And this is something that needs to keep happening. But again, women have to, even first of all, on the ground level, those barriers need to not be there. So you can have more women being in careers, more women doing things. So I'm not shouting every day, every month. I'm shouting, science is not doing enough for me as a woman. So every time I'm frustrated, that's what I do. That's what I say. So this collaboration, on what levels can this collaboration happen? Because I might even be able to do something I not know. Because I didn't get information on how I can actually even help, right? Even our online people, that are talking about this, might even be able to do more than talk about it, but not know, right? But you as a professional, in what ways do you think that these collaborations can happen? Little ways, the big ways, the every way.
I hope I do justice in this question because it's so broad. So I'll try. At an organized level, of course, policy. Interesting fact, by the way. One of the reasons why I ditched medical practice for like a couple of years, I didn't think I was going to come back to the health space, was because I realized that I didn't want to do clinical medicine. I realized that where the real change happened was with policy. And so I kind of figured I would either like work in policy or become a politician at some point because I want to be there where decisions are being made and stuff. And that was kind of why it was easy for me to be like, oh, this is doctor thing. Yeah, let me just go make my money, come and try to do local government something, become a senator or whatever. And we're able to be a voice for women. If we have more women where decisions are being made, of course. Hopefully these women do not have the fear of being labeled and they are able to speak up for the other women. Hopefully these women also know how to use their voice to persuade, to win arguments rather than throw stones and shatter the table and then we're back to square one. So policy. Let me give you an example because policy may sound like a big word and I don't want to feel like I'm talking over our listeners' heads. A woman is entitled to a certain amount of days when it comes leave when she delivers a baby. Right, and I'm not sure now. I should know this because this is my work. But you guys, sorry, it's just a brain fart. I think it's about 12 weeks in Nigeria.
Yeah, 3 months.
3 months. Yes. Is that time enough?
Actually, no, because you don't take it the day you give birth.
Yeah, I was even asking it as a rhetoric, right? What gets us to a point where people are sitting down to change that policy, right? It would mean that there was a gathering or a woman put forward a bill and she got people to support that bill and then that bill got passed, right? So at that level, it would mean that somebody is raising this as a thing. Guess what? Maternity leave is not the only thing that supports women. Paternity leave is also for the good of women.
True.
Because if you give birth and they give you maternity leave and they don't give your husband paternity leave, that's also furthering the narrative that the father is not responsible for the child, of taking care of the child.
Correct.
So if the father, I think men only get 7 days.
Yes.
So that needs to be challenged. Do you see? And guess who is in the best position to challenge the bill? It's our men.
Joint effort. Joint effort.
So it's a joint effort. So that's an example at the organized level. There are countries, by the way, I have to say kudos to the countries where you can get 1 year off work. And the policy also protects you because it mandates the companies, because that's another side of it. It mandates the companies to hold your job. So you come back.
So I don't come back and say you don't have room for me.
Because that's also another thing that people face in this part. And that's why a woman will say, no, they cannot pass bill of 12 months leave. Do you people want to you excuse me, you want me to come back to no job? Because the average Nigerian employer, in the spirit of self-preservation, you want me to sit on my hands and leave a spot for you for after a year.
Oh, we're trying to survive here.
So many people go on maternity leave, come back, and they struggle to get back into like their job because the person that was working in the interim does not want to leave the job for them. There are policies that can protect women in these instances. So at the policy level, I think that's one example. The advocacy level, I don't think advocacy is only for the people that have power. If someone uses their Twitter to talk, that's advocacy of sorts, you know. So thank God for social media, because it looks like almost every feminist on Twitter is an advocate, and that counts for something, even though we know that it turns into like gender wars too many times. NGOs are great, right? Companies are great because it's not also every time that these things have to be like, oh, it's a non-profit, it's a non-profit. Sometimes there are businesses like the pad company you mentioned now. That is a for-profit company that is solving a problem for women, and they are making profit out of it, but they are actually solving the problem. They're not doing it unethically, because we're finding out that a lot of things that have been sold to women as products have caused damage.
I was really disappointed when I found out.
We're finding out that the relaxers that we've used
causes cancer and fibroids
and fibroids, and so maybe all these issues we're going through is because of, you know, a lot of the chemical products we used that were not tested on women. So it's very extensive. The final thing I will say to answer your question is every single drop matters.
Thank you for that. And now to wrap up, we talk about information, education, and all of those things. I think it's important for us, if we're telling people to get educated, what are for men that are trying to turn a new leaf, or are trying to also further their understanding. Now they've listened to this, they want to further their understanding. Or women that even say, okay, that's true, I don't really know. I don't think I know so much, because a lot of women learned about their feminine health after their own. Some lessons in boarding school, in hostels, on the communities for women's health applications. Your friends, chit chat. A friend of mine did not know for a very long time. She didn't know something for a very long time. Very interesting fact about women's health. She's a mom, and she was like, I didn't know. I didn't know one to.
I was having a conversation with someone last week, one of our ambassadors, because we have like this campus ambassador program, and one of our ambassadors, or some of them, thought that the menstrual cycle and menstruation are the same thing, but they are not, because the menstrual cycle is the entire end to end, so maybe 28 days, 35, and your menstruation is like the 5 days or the 3 days where you pass blood. So things as simple as this.
So what are the platforms people can learn, the tools, you know?
This question is hard. Let me tell you why. Again, people are not waking up to say, I'm not educated about my health though. I want to go and learn about my health. That's not how it works. Right? People have a problem. Then in the process of trying to solve the problem, they're like, the things I don't know are plenty. So me, I don't know. But what I can say is that the solution to the lack of knowledge, I would approach it more from a systemic level than from an individual level. Because when it's addressed on a systemic level, it then creates a desire to learn more for the individuals. Systemic level, 2 major institutions, schools, and our religious institutions.
Shockingly, and that's like one institution that shuts out these things the most, if I can say. And
it hurts if I was say it vexes my spirit, but that's like keyboard warrior behavior. Like, what is wrong with all of this?
Why religious?
Guess what? I feel like, in fact, our religious institutions will pour fuel to fire, because a lot of the stigma comes from just the religion and the...
Very correct.
Yeah. And maybe we can add the family unit as the third institution that can help with this. But guess what? Even the family unit. So if my mom will impart some knowledge to me about my body and just like my womanhood, my mom listens to her pastor. So we can't really remove my mom maybe also went to like school. She went through school. So, and my mom also has a grandma. So those 3 institutions, right? But you find that I think the easiest button to press is the religious one. But it's also a delicate one because it's like, it may now take maybe certain individuals that run these organized religious systems who maybe have a passion for this topic to include it in their programs.
True.
Because that's where a lot of, in fact, I dare say that when we say we need the support of the men and we need our men to be more aware, who will our men listen to? They listen to their pastors and their imams. So I think that's one missed opportunity for change across this topic of health awareness and female empowerment that we're not utilizing. And maybe there can be a policy around it that insists that religious organizations have to have one program per month.
That's going to be a fight anyways.
It won't actually, when you think about it. So I feel like we've avoided it because we can.
Okay, true.
And because nobody has held us accountable. But these conversations are important. Every girl, when a girl, we pretend that young people are not having sex.
No, they are.
Yeah.
A lot.
But we pretend.
True.
And so we don't give them the information they need to avoid STDs.
And they go on to
not get pregnant.
The wrong information. And
then now a girl has to have an abortion or she has to carry this pregnancy. I saw a video again last month, or it was this month. This is
January.
Yeah, I saw a video of a girl who was called to the front of her church to apologize to the church because she was pregnant.
What about the guy? Was it there too? Was the guy there too?
No, the guy wasn't called. It was just the girl. It was just the girl.
She made the baby alone.
Yeah, she did.
Wow. The worst case could have been married. That's another crazy part.
Let us not go into that topic because we will not live here today.
Okay, cool. Like platforms, like websites. Because when I read a lot of these women's health magazine, I go there and find the most ridiculous things.
There's this name that is eluding me right now. I mean, I should be calling Fertitude first, but I'm not even trying to be selfish. And maybe if I remember the name, I'll send to you and it can be in the caption of the video or something. But to be very honest, without me even mentioning any website, and I know that Google, we don't Google scares everybody and Google is not very reliable. But even if the internet alone is actually a tool that can give you information. Yes, there is misinformation, but many times there's more reliable information than there is misinformation. I mean, we're seeing technology now with GPT. But this is a good time for me to plug Fertitude because Fertitude, we have a bot that we've built and trained for health instances. So this bot is trained like a doctor to answer health-related questions. So I can say
the basic things that you don't really need to.
Plus the basic and the complex, and the ones that you should not be asking it because you should be seeing a doctor. It's called Kiki AI. Kiki will tell you, oh, please talk to, and he will recommend one of our doctors to you to say, talk to this person because this one passed my power. You should not be, because there are things that really gets to a point where you should not be asking someone. You should be knocking on the door of a doctor. But we also know there is a barrier to people going to the hospital. Yeah. So yeah. But the internet, to be honest, let's not even try to get too anal about it. The internet will give you that first level of education that you need about it.
You name me Kiki because you're Kiva.
My team chose the name Kiki, and that's that. And I did say, guys, I don't want people confusing
Kiki and Kiva.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you so much. This has been very insightful. I really enjoyed every bit of this.
I did too.
And I'm glad that you said yes. And I'm glad that you talked a lot because you didn't want to.
Yes, I'm working on being very concise with my answers.
That's something a lot of women do struggle with.
We just talk.
And say so many things.
Yeah. So I try to not do that.
I love that you express yourself because this is very informative. There are a lot of new things that I learned. And I feel like we learned as well. And I'm super excited about doing this because now you've allowed us to also participate in our contribution in Women's Month.
Thank you.
Right. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Titi. When you had asked me to come, at first I'm like, what? I mean, I'm not the typical career girl, so I hope I have something to give. It was not until we were about to start recording when you mentioned Women's Month, and I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm useful for something. Oh, okay.
No, in fact,
it's a women's topic. Okay.
You're very, very useful. So normally we don't have founders because it's a podcast for ambitious people. Not everybody that is working in 9 to 5 needs this, and that's fine. You could be working for fun.
Or you're just a trust fund baby.
And you could actually be working seriously for yourself, but you're not interested in all that, and that's okay. Right? But this is specific for people that are chasing things. This is your tribe. But then these are important things that affect us as well. So when we have founders, actually founders that are doing things that affects professional. So moment I saw you, I'm like, nah, she's coming. Because that was the conversation that started, I'm like, nah, she's coming.
Thank you.
Because a lot of ambitious women are dealing with this thing.
Things.
I'm glad.
And I mean, please feel free to reach out to me, like even, because I'm very happy to like give a woman emotional support. If there is like, of course, there's a limit to because I'm not a therapist or anything, but yes, thank you so much. I'm glad we met the way we did, because one of the things that we're now realizing is let's take this fight to the doorstep of the people that can cause the change. So this year, one of the things we're doing is we're going to like talk to HRs. We're talking to founders
nice.
To say you can get like subscription for your people, because like I said, people will not exactly go after this knowledge until there's a problem. We want them to have knowledge about this thing before the problem comes. So we now know that we have to go and reach out to people that can let your boss pay for this for you, right? So that now you're aware, and at least your boss can be happier with your work, because now you know how to manage your energy. You're falling sick less. You're able to like plan properly, like if you're a family woman who is like struggling a bit. So I think that I met you at an opportune time. That panel was like it was one of the aha moments in my life as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
I'm glad.
See where that has led.
I'm glad. Thank you so much, everybody that has stayed on this from the beginning to the very end. I do hope that you learned a lot of amazing things, and I do hope that if you're a man watching this, you now understand that this is not about women, or this is about cheating men or anything. It shows now. I hope you've come to understand why this is your fight as well. Okay, and I do hope that this inspires something inside of you, right, to join us in the fight in whatever capacity that you can. Nothing is small. There's no small. Well, I think this podcast is just talk, but it's gonna ignite something in somebody.
Even a dad who is teaching his son to think about this differently.
Thank you. Yeah, it's because you meet some men and you're like, they raised you to be very considerate, right? So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We would be excited to read your comments, because I would love to know the thoughts that you have, right? Like and share. Don't be stingy. I think they should implement that on my channel already. Don't be stingy. Share with your friends. Share in your workplace, right? Share in your workplace. And subscribe if you haven't. There's a bell there right now. Do that. See you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.